Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. Forrest Gregg had one of the strangest coaching careers in the history of the NFL when you think about it. On one hand, he led the Cincinnati Bengals to their first Super Bowl appearance in franchise history. He's still remembered incredibly fondly, particularly because of his incredible playing career, where he was an anchor on Vince Lombardi's offensive line with the Packers, where he made the Hall of Fame, and where he established himself as one of the greatest offensive linemen of all time. He's even got an AP Coach of the Year win under his belt. On the other hand, the rest of his coaching career was pretty ugly. In 11 seasons, he had a winning record just 3 times, and made the postseason just twice. He only had 1 season out of 11 where he actually won a playoff game. He's one of the worst head coaches to ever make it to the Super Bowl, and considering the circumstances, he might have an argument for the worst ever, not named Bill Callahan. With the Green Bay Packers and Cleveland Browns, he never made the postseason. And with the Browns, his stint ended in absolutely disastrous fashion. It was ugly. It was so bad that even though owner Art Modell wanted him to stay, players were openly and publicly calling for his firing and threatened to not play anymore if he was still there. And this is the story of the moment that Gregg left the Cleveland Browns. Before I talk about the incident, we need some context leading up to the moment. After Gregg played his last season in the NFL, which was in 1971 as a member of the Dallas Cowboys, it was time to think about life after playing football. He decided to get into coaching, and became the offensive line coach with the San Diego Chargers. This stint was short-lived though, as after 2 seasons there, he would join the Cleveland Browns in the same role. San Diego got a brand new coach in 1974, Tommy Prothro, and as most new coaches do, they hire their own guys and clean house to the old regime. In 1974 though, the Cleveland Browns were bad. Under head coach Nick Skurich, they went 4-10, which was their worst record in franchise history at the time. Never in the near 30-year history of the team had they been this bad. Never had they ever finished in last place until this season. Unsurprisingly, after a year that poor, and after 4 years of never winning a playoff game, he was fired. Art Modell began the search for a new head coach, and Gregg was atop the list. Keep in mind that the Browns' offensive line was terrible in 1974. The team allowed 48 sacks, which was the 3rd most in all of football, and only 2 behind the Atlanta Falcons for the worst total in the entire league. They had a 3-game stretch in October where they got sacked 17 times. And Gregg only had 3 years of experience coaching, none of which were at any role besides offensive line coach. However, it came down to Gregg and Monty Clark, and Modell decided to go with Gregg. In the introductory press conference, Gregg said that his number one concern more than anything else was that he didn't know how to motivate his players, and didn't really know what to do on that front. He said, "I really can't explain to you how it can be done. If I or any other coach can answer that question, he wouldn't have any problems." Keep that in the back of your mind, because this inability to communicate is what we call foreshadowing. Now, to Gregg's credit, things actually started off alright. While the team started 0-9 in 1975, they ended the season winning 3 of their final 5 games, indicating a sign of things to come. In 1976, the Browns carried that momentum into the new year, finishing 9-5 and going on a stretch where they won 8 out of 9 games. While the Browns missed the playoffs that year, Gregg's efforts did not go unnoticed, as he won AP Coach of the Year honors. And to start off the 1977 season, the Browns were 5-2, and were coming off of a 44-7 thrashing against the Kansas City Chiefs. At the halfway point of the 1977 season, the Browns were atop the AFC Central, and had the 3rd best offense in all of football. Things were going great. They were about to take a dramatic turn for the worse. By the midway point of the 1977 season, for maybe the first time since the merger, the Browns were legitimate title contenders. Gregg was really pleased with his team. He said that the team is right where he wants them to be, called the game against the Chiefs the best he'd ever seen them play, and outright said that the team feels like they're in contention now. After a rough stretch in the mid-70s where they were in the doghouse, they were ready to relive their glory days and make some noise. And that's when it all came crashing down. A 10-7 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals where the Browns turned it over 4 times and committed 12 penalties. A 35-31 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a game where the Steelers led 35-10 at one point in the 4th quarter. A 9-0 shutout loss to the Los Angeles Rams in a game where the Browns turned it over 6 times and picked up just 11 first downs. By the end of October, the Browns were one of the best teams in football. By the end of November, they were sputtering and had basically no shot at the postseason. At 6-5 with 3 games to play, and only 4 teams in each conference making it, 3 back of the Oakland Raiders for the only wildcard spot, and technically 2 games back of the Pittsburgh Steelers for the AFC Central lead, Since the Steelers owned the tiebreaker due to sweeping the Browns in the regular season, the Browns needed to run the table and then pray for the best. To be blunt, that did not happen. On December 4th, they took on the San Diego Chargers in what had to be a must-win game, and they flat out laid an egg, losing at 37-14, and trailing 30-0 entering the third quarter. Dan Fouts played a near-perfect game on the other side, going 14 for 20 for 237 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 149.4 passer rating. It got so ugly that Fouts didn't even play the fourth quarter since there was no need for him in a 5-possession game. Gregg was furious at his team and made his frustrations known in a post-game press conference. He said that the Browns were a dead football team, said that the team had no effort and didn't care. Not only did he call the performance embarrassing, but he said that some players on the team laid down. And the fact that Gregg said these comments after partly saying that the coaching staff would take the blame with whatever happened on Sunday was not a good look. You could already sense some tension between the players and their head coach. Running back Greg Pruitt said flat out that the team isn't playing for fun and glory anymore, and that under Gregg, they're just playing for money. He added, "Ask anyone in the locker room to play for nothing, and it will be empty in 2 minutes." Now tack on these comments by their head coach, and the Browns locker room was a ticking time bomb, because 1 week later, a full-scale revolt would take place. When the Browns played the Houston Oilers the following week, they lost 19-15. Though Cleveland showed some resiliency fighting back, as they cut a 19-6 deficit to 19-15, it was not enough. Once 5-2, the Browns were now 6-7, and with 1 game left, were officially eliminated from playoff contention. After the game, Gregg actually was pretty positive. He said he was pretty happy with the performance, and said that his team played their hearts out. He added maybe they even tried too hard. Maybe this was damage control after what happened last week, but by this point the damage was already done. Because after the game, the Browns spoke out. One player said that the situation in the locker room with the team and Gregg was a pathetic mess and had become a cesspool. He was tired of Gregg bashing the team constantly, and that he was tired of being the GOAT. He continued, "Gregg tore down our emotional edge after losses. How can you expect someone to die for you when you treat him like that?" There was screaming, there was name-calling, and there was dehumanizing criticism. And the player finished by saying that he wouldn't play for the Browns again if Gregg was back in 1978. Liddell said that he wasn't going to fire Gregg, so that was out the door. But at this point, we had a civil war going on between the players and the coaches. The players were fed up with Gregg, and the situation had got into an absolutely toxic catastrophe, seemingly past the point of no return. And not even 24 hours after these comments were made, Gregg decided that he was going to leave the team on his own terms. He decided to call it quits. While Gregg said that he did it so that Modell wouldn't fire him at the end of the year, considering the fact that there was only 1 game left, and considering the fact that Modell backed Gregg and outright said he was not going to be fired, I highly doubt that was the reason. In all likelihood, it had to do with those comments right there. At the end of the day, both parties benefited from the fallout. Gregg went on to coach the Cincinnati Bengals, where he guided them to an appearance at Super Bowl XVII, and the Browns wound up with Sam Rutigliano, who had some very good years with the team, including a 1980 campaign where he led the Browns to their first division title since 1971. But the split that got both parties past that point was not pretty at all, because by the time Gregg's tenure in Cleveland was coming to an end, he had completely lost the locker room. Be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaredGooder9 and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JJ9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.